off the pad and it triggers everybody in the world. Now then, crew, and welcome back to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel. Now, in this video, we're going to be fitting the new Dynatek electronic ignition system. Sounds really complicated. It's not. This, going by the instructions, touch wood, tempting fate now, aren't I? Going by the instructions, this is dead easy to install, physically dead easy to install. And then we've got to obviously reset the ignition timing. In the last video, for you guys, we installed brand new ignition points and condensers, and I showed you how to set up the ignition timing with the points ignition. Obviously, when we take all that off, we've then got to, install this and then reset the ignition timing again. But it's a very, very similar process. It really is. What else? So what else came in the kit? Well, we got a wiring diagram, so I'm just going to show you that now so you can follow that a bit later on. There you go, look. So you've got the two pickups, or the two sensors here, and that's the wiring. Now, there's a few bits of the wiring, or some of the methods that they're using, especially this little square thing here, which we call a Scotch lock, which is, you get out of the packet, because honestly, I first came across these in England when I was watching one of the mechanics fitting a tow bar to a new, it would have been a Nissan car, because we were a Nissan dealership. It might have been Renault. I really can't remember. It's quite a while ago. But they used to have boxes and boxes of these little things. And I've stripped lots of little Suzuki Jeeps over the years, and they were pretty common to use when you want to tee into a particular wire, and it's a really quick way of doing it. The only problem is, these things are open to the elements. They're not sealed in any way, and they do compromise the original wire in the loom, because when you, I don't know if you've come across these before, we're not going to use it, so I can open it up. Ooh, here we go, look. Right. Look inside. There's like a little metal plate. I think it's an aluminium plate, which is probably bad for it anyway. Stainless would be nice. Little aluminium plate there. You put your wires in, and then you crush it with a pair of pliers, basically. And that metal plate then cuts through the insulation, ideally either side of the copper wire, but in reality it usually knocks out a couple of strands on the way through. So it's reducing the section of the wire as well, plus it's open to the elements, so guaranteed after a while corrosion will set in, and these are the bane of my life when it comes to doing electrics on stuff. If you spot one of these, remove it. They're horrible. Don't use them. Sorry, Scotch lock, but I think they're crap. Good for a temporary repair to get you home, but not good for a long-term, part of your wiring. So, we've seen the wiring diagram. We're going to go through this step by step because, well, I've never fitted one of these before, and I'm really interested to see how they go on. And I was very dubious about how it works and stuff until I actually got around to reading the instructions. So, Dana go on to say, remove the points cover. It's already off. Took that off yesterday. Remove the 10mm nut or bolt, depending on model and hex washer. Sorry, it's some pretty bad English in here. Holding the spark advance assembly to the engine. Right, so we're going to go and do that. And then it says point 3. Remove the 3 screws holding the points plate to the engine. That's the 3 screws that we undid yesterday on the previous video. Sorry, on the previous video, which was episode 11. This is episode 12, by the way. I have to say that to remind myself when I'm editing it up. Those 3 screws were the adjuster screws for the points on cylinders 1 and 4. So we undo those 3, we can actually take the whole plate off with the points and everything, because it's never going to go back on the bike, I don't think. Remove the spark advance assembly from the engine. Okay, and that's to do with engine RPM. As the engine revs up, we have to advance the spark because everything's happening a lot quicker. Pistons are going up and down faster, aren't they? Okay, so we've got points 1 to 4 there. Let's go head over to the bike now and make a start and start pulling some stuff off. The stuff that I set up so carefully yesterday. Jeez, I can't believe that I'm taking this off so quickly. We only fitted it yesterday and set it all up. Now I'm assuming this is a right hand thread. Didn't say otherwise anywhere else. Well, there we go, look, it is. Excellent. I haven't taken this off before, so today is the day. Oh, it is a very special little nut as well. Okay, so on the back of there, it's got a little slot that slots into there, so I need to not lose that or break it. Okay, next job, I think is going to remove all these wires, in all honesty, that we put on yesterday. So I'll go and get a little 5.5mm socket to undo these. Change of plan. I want to keep all this wiring with that place and the points all together, just to keep it easy for storage. So I'll just unplug this out of here. This is all new wiring that I made up just for that particular video, to be honest. So I'm going to get rid of this sheathing, and then we can thread these all the way through the engine casing and bring it all out that way, I think. Oh, this pains me, it really does. In all honesty, I think you could probably, now that I've done the timing on this one through the points, with the points yesterday, I reckon you could fit an electronic ignition system quicker than you could actually set up or fit new points and new condensers and set the timing up. That's what I think you could do. I think it's going to be a lot easier. I'm not saying that it was hard with the points, it's not, but it's a bit finicky. Right, so we can remove that. Jeez. And now I can just pull all that wiring through there, because I didn't fit the grommet because I knew it was only temporary. I wanted to save the grommet for use on this electronic system. There we go. Perfect. Well, step 4 is to remove this spark of vance assembly from the engine. So basically just pull that clean off. There we go. Now take note, there is a little pin on the back, and that keys into a hole on the end of the crankshaft. Very, very important. You must line that up later on. Otherwise, this won't be set in the correct position, will it? Things won't work, that's for sure. Right, back to the bench. Well, so far so good. Don't want to tempt fate, but it's been pretty easy so far, hasn't it? Okay, step 5. Remove the points cam from the advanced assembly by twisting to the right and pulling. Well, if you remember, this is the part that's responsible for the heel of the points basically being pushed away from the crankshaft and opening those contacts, because it's got a lobe on it. It's got a single lobe. You can just to say make out the bigger radius or bigger diameter up there at the top side. Okay, nice close-up shot I think for doing this bit. Now these things have had years and years of grime on them. See how grubby it is back there? So I just want to give it a bit of a clean first before we go any further. Oh, that's not brake cleaner. That's brake cleaner. Okay, prepare yourselves. Oh, silicon. Ah. That's better. And you can see there, look, that's the pin again. We must align that when we put it back on again. Almost looks like it's been rubbing on something, doesn't it? There's rub marks on there. I wonder if there's a bit of float on the crank. Let's check for that. Blasting it all over the instructions. That's not going to end well, is it? So also look this kind of stuff apart. It's always really good to have a good look at it and familiarise yourself with how it works, because you might have to fix it one day. Now we've got a couple of weights, one either side, and those get thrown out as engine RPM increases. And the RPM point that they move depends partly on the mass of that weight and the spring strength as well, because that's critical. And over time, those springs lose a bit of their tension, so of course your advance gets a bit, a bit out. Doesn't happen quite at the right time. So if we just mark, I'm just going to put your mark between the cam lobe here, or the cam, and what is the crankshaft. Now the crankshaft, this piece here is all the same. It comes out the back here, and that's what's keyed into the crankshaft. So you can imagine that this centerpiece is crankshaft. Now if I hold the cam and rotate this anti-clockwise, you can see that the weights will start to throw out. It's all happening backwards at the moment, because obviously with the weights it will be turning this as opposed to this turning the weights, but it's because it's mechanically linked, we can do it that way. So when the weights are fully thrown out, so whatever RPM that is, I don't know what it is, it should be in the manual somewhere, you can see now that the position of the crankshaft is further back to TDC as to when the points would start to open, and that basically it advances the ignition. It makes the spark occur sooner, before the piston gets to TDC, a further distance away, or crankshaft rotation, and probably about an extra, I don't know, maybe another 10 or 15 degrees there. Look, again, the manual will tell us, and it's going to vary from one bike to another depending on model and engine size and so on, but it's quite interesting to see how that works. Might not make the video, we'll wait and see. Okay, now what's next? Oh yes, we've got to remove this, haven't we? So what did it say? It said remove the points cam from the advanced assembly by twisting to the right and pulling. Well, I ain't going to twist, so maybe it means turning this and pulling. Yes, okay. Yeah, so we want to get those weights by now. I'll give it a clean. It's quite stiff actually. Something's happening. Right, so it basically means you've got to push, get it to a position where the weights are all the way out, and that should then come off there. This one's a bit tight, so I think a little flat screwdriver is required. Let's give that a go. It's coming. It's just a bit tight. There we go, look. Right, we are now beyond the weights. The weights have sprung back into the centre. Geez, that is really tight. Probably because of the brake cleaner. Right. Come on, Misty, you can do it. Where's my rag? Can't really get a good grip on it. There we are. Right, it's coming now. Got it. That was tight. That was really tight. It shouldn't have been that tight, because remember, it's got to be able to rotate freely, and this one really wasn't. Well, not since I put the brake cleaner in it. Okay, let's give that centre bit a bit of a clean, because we've not cleaned that bit yet, have we? There we go. Right, done. Now this bit we can put with the old points plate in the Dynabox. Okay, now it's a good idea while you're in just to check for any kind of wear on these pivots and stuff. Make sure the springs are all good and they haven't broken. They're not too loose. That looks pretty good. Okay, right, what's next? Okay, Dana goes on to say, step 6, on some 550 and 750 models, a small pin will be seen projecting from the cylinders 1/4 side of the advanced assembly shaft. Delay now, isn't it? We've already taken it off. This pin was removed and can be by gently tapping on the side of the pin wait for it, with a screwdriver and a hammer. Good old screwdrivers. Well, it turns out ours didn't have a pin on the side of it. It's a good job because we tried to do step 5 before reading step 6. Good. Okay. Now, step 7: coat the advanced assembly shaft with oil whilst holding it with the 1-4. So cylinders 1 and 4 side pointing up. Okay. Right. Right. I'm going to read all this before I try and do it. Right. Slip the Dana S rotor over the shaft. This is the Dana S rotor. Do not drop it, Andy. And it's got, I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but it's got a little tiny, so they say, a little tiny magnet. Yes, you can. Just in there, look. Different, that circly thing there. Hopefully you can see that okay. So put that over there for now. And again, just for reference, it's got the same kind of fitting, obviously, otherwise it won't fit down at the base. So that's why we've got to get it fitted in. Jeez. Okay, right, carrying on. A magnet approximately 1/4 of an inch in diameter will be noticed, we've already seen that, on one side of the rotor. This magnet must face to the left when the cylinders 1 and 4 side of the advanced assembly is pointing up. Okay, so just to reiterate, cylinders 1 and 4, you can see that a 1-4 there somewhere. Yep, just by the screwdriver. Hopefully you can see that. There, yeah, look, 1-4. So we have that pointing up, and then the magnet must be off to the left-hand side. Basically, you can be 180 degrees out with this, and that's not a good thing because it won't run. Okay. Now then, spread the weights and push the rotor down until it engages the weights. Ensure that the rotor rotates freely on the shaft as the advanced weights move out and back. Okay, right, we need to do that next. And I think we need a little bit of oil too, don't we? I'll go and get some oil. Right, said Fred. Everything is very dry now that I've cleaned it with brake cleaner. I don't like how dry it is. So I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of oil. Oh, geez. On those pivots. Now, of course, most of it's going to get thrown out, you know, once it starts to spin up. I really have the world's worst oil can. It's not often I use it. Right, let's just get that worked in there a little bit first. And I'll wipe off any excess before it goes back in, obviously, but you know, I think it needs a little bit of oil on those. I really can't be putting it in dry. That would be sacrilege. Okay, now we also need to oil this section here. You can see where it's been picking up, look. That's not good. Way. Control yourself, Mr. Young. Right. Hopefully she's going to spin on there quite nicely. Okay, where is it? Clean hands. Where's my rag? The rag that I just put loads of oil on. Okay. So, 1 to 4 upwards. There we go, look. Like that. And this is our little collar. So, the magnet must face to the left. Okay, so we'll pop the magnet. There's the magnet. In fact, I'm going to mark the position of the magnet for you using the magic pen. That's where the magnet is. Just to give you a reference, because it's going to be all fingers in a minute. Ignore that yellow line now, because that was something else. Okay, so we've got 1 and 4 at the top. And now we've got to open up these weights. And you'll see where you can just see the little notch there, look, that will actually key into and over those when I get it in the right place. This is where you need about 4 hands. Oh yeah, we're about lined up. It should just go on now. There we are, done. Brilliant. Okay, so just to double check, we've got cylinder 1-4 at the top, 1 and 4 at the top, and our magnet is here. Oh, it is a magnet, look at that. Okay, so our magnet is here, so that's how it should look when it's installed. 1 and 4 at the top, so 1 and 4 at 12 o'clock. This is just under 9 o'clock, just under. Right, that's pretty cool. It seems to rotate nice and freely, which is what Mr. Dana wants. Super. Now we'll just wipe off all that excess oil. And I wouldn't trust the thing to stay in position, you know, on the end of the shaft while you're moving it around, because it doesn't have, like the Honda one did, it doesn't have this lip at the bottom. So there's nothing to stop that being pulled and coming off until that big washer's on the end. The big nut in this case. Right, let's give it a little bit of a clean off, get rid of any excess oil. It did need some oil though, so it feels a lot better now. Cool, yeah. Oh yes, that's lovely and smooth. Great job. Okay. Right, what's next? Now, Mr. Dana goes on to say, step 8, install the advanced rotor assembly on the engine, making sure the pin, remember the pin, on the end of the advanced assembly is engaged in the pin hole in the crankshaft. If you don't do that, then you're probably going to break something, and even if you do manage to get it put on, it won't run. Reinstall the hex washer and the 10mm nut or bolt and tighten. Doesn't give us a torque setting. Bugger. And I might use a bit of thread lock on there actually. Ensure that the rotor is still free to rotate. We can do that. Okay, to the bike. Now, the hole in, or the peg hole in the crankshaft is about 11 o'clock as I'm looking at it. So, it's obviously can be a different position to when you're doing your bike. So we're going to pop that over there and just, oh, there we go, look, that's definitely in. Quite happy with that. Yes, superb. Now, the reason why I'm putting thread lock on is I don't know the torque setting. In fact, I need a wire brush. That's filthy. Okay, going backwards to go forwards, just taking that back off again for a second. Just going to give these threads a little bit of a clean, get all the crap out of them. Seems weird seeing a little stud sticking out the end of a crankshaft, doesn't it? Hey, you won't want to bend it, that's for sure. That wouldn't go down well. Okay, going back on again. There we go. Bit of movement, look. Bit of wear. That's not so good, is it? That's a good 3 or 4 degrees there. Jeez. Okay, now specialist washer. So I think we'll pop a little bit of thread lock on there now. Only a little dab, that's all I need. And we're using the blue, so you can take it apart again, don't panic. Right, specialist washer, they call this, or hex nut. That goes on first. It's a bit worn. Should have got a new one really. Right, one of them. And just a pretty standard M6 nut bar, looks of it. Okay. Now, we're hoping that once that's tight, there's still sufficient clearance for this collar, the new collar, to rotate. So I'm just going to try and... Yes, it still moves, it's good. Okay, where's my big spanner? Big spanner coming in, probably the wrong size, but anyway. So this should be a 24, and it's so worn that a 24 spanner is really loose on it now. There we go. Is it still moving? Oh, look at that. It is. Fantastic. Okay, point 9 or step 9, install the Dana S using the 3 screws previously removed and tighten. So on this step, Dana is saying we need to install this, but for you guys who are going to be doing the timing, setting the advanced timing a bit later on with me, you need to know some more marks, because there's some marks on that advanced unit which are critical to setting that advanced timing. So let's go back to the bike now and highlight which ones they are, so you know what we're looking at later on, because sure as hell once this is fitted they're going to be really hard to see. Here we go. Okay, so we can see this is for cylinders 1 and 4. We can see a mark here. Oh geez, come on camera, what are you doing? We can see a mark here with the letter T underneath. That's top dead center for cylinders 1 and 4. The F, which is slightly further forward, is the static timing position for ignition for the fire. Yeah, that's when the spark occurs, and we used that when we were setting up the ignition points on the previous video. Now, the advanced markings position is these two marks here on the right hand side. I'm told, and there's not a lot in the Honda service manual, but I'm told when we're setting up the Dana we should really aim for the furthest mark, but in all honesty they are very, very close together. So I think as long as you get somewhere between the two, we are good, but with a preference to being on the furthest one round. So I'm just going to get my little paint pen, and I'm going to put a little splodge just underneath there just to aid us a bit later on, and I'll twizzle it round. Let's get to for cylinders 2 and 3. There we go, look. So ideally we want it to be about there. About there would be perfect. But we're a long, long way from that yet. This is just to show you what marks you're looking for. So again, we'll put a little splodge just under there, just to help us later on with the camera. Right, first job is going to be to thread all this wiring through here. Now I'll add the grommet a bit later on. You will need to fit a grommet, by the way, otherwise your wiring will very quickly go to ground and it'll all stop working. Right, there we go, look. Slide that down there. Now then, obviously the hole is at the top because that allows us to see the advanced marks and stuff a bit later on. Oh, it's pretty neat. I like the way it fits. There we go. A lot less gubbins than before, isn't there? Okay, let's get one of these screws in before it all jumps out. Just leaving them loose for now. Cool, yeah. Whilst we're here, just to point out all the adjustments, we've got adjustment on the main plate here with these 3 slots. We've got adjustment independently on each of the 2 pickups with these very small little tiny cap head screws as well. So each of these pickups can be adjusted independently as well, but we're going to come to that a bit later on. So back to the instructions. Okay, step 10, route the cable over to where the point originally plugged in, being careful to avoid the exhaust system. The grommet from the point cable, the original points cable, the little grommet that we took out, which is just here, look, I actually saved it from earlier on. That is the grommet, so it should look like that. It says the grommet from the original cable may be used by slitting it with a razor blade to remove it. Well, fortunately, I just managed to get it off without cutting it, so I've got that to go back on at some point. 11, interesting one. Connect the wires with the blue and yellow bands to the receptacles where the original points connected, matching the colours. So blue to blue, yellow to yellow, pretty easy. Okay, let's head over to the bike and connect those up. So Mr. Dana is telling us to connect these two wires. One's got a yellow band and one's got a blue band onto the original wires that fed the points. Again, yellow stroke blue. But I can't do that at the moment because there is no way that I'm putting this kind of connector on a bike that I've worked on. These kind of connectors are completely open to the elements, and that's no good. So I'm going to fix that. I'm going to install some proper sealed connectors like these instead of these two, and I'll also going to replace that as well. I don't like the look of that kind of connector either, so I'll put a female connector a bit like, actually no, but I'll put a male connector that looks a bit like that on there. It'll become apparent very shortly. Right, got my work cut out now. Right, that's those sorted out, so we can plug those in. I've left the little bands on obviously for colour reference. So blue, plug him in there, look, nice waterproof connection, brilliant, that's what we like. And yellow into yellow. Super job. Right, back to the bench. So, step 12. We're not far off, I don't think. No, we're nearly there. Remove the fuel tank. Yes, done that already. Ages ago. About 6 months ago the fuel tank came off. Locate the two ignition coils. This is what the normal instructions are. There is a black-white wire coming from each coil to a common junction in the wiring harness. There's a wire that comes down from the back of the headlight through the loom, which basically is power. It's a black wire, white tracer that's the power feed to the primary circuit of both ignition coils, and there's a little junction piece in there. Use the splice connector provided, attach this. No, we're not using that. Definitely not. Okay, so basically they're saying that you want to tap into that wire to provide power to the Dana system, and that's the red wire heading down to those two pickups. It says do not strip the wires. Now if you'd like to see a detailed instruction of how to use a Scotch lock just for posterity, not that we're going to use it, there you go, look. Pretty amazing. I never even knew that drawing even existed. That is brilliant. Please, I beg you, do not use this in the kit. Alright, I'll show you what I've done in a second. They have a note, and it says, note, the location for obtaining a switch 12 volts in step 12 is one of several locations, so you don't have to take it from where the coils are. And let's face it, it's quite a long distance of wiring to add to your bike to get it from there. If a more convenient source of switch 12 volts is available, it may be used, as long as it provides a sound connection. One such source is the 12 volt wire leading to the rear brake stoplight switch, and in some cases unused 12 volt receptacles can be found in the motorcycle's electrical system. Okay, let me show you what I've done, and those that have been following the series will know exactly where I've picked up this particular PowerPoint from. So on this bike I have fitted an ignition relay, and it's the power to the ignition coils that's switched by this relay. No longer does the power feed go through the ignition switch and the kill switch. So all I've done is the output is the black wire just down there, look, that runs up the back here, goes into the loom, and just here earlier on today I teed into that, and now we have a red wire that goes off on this little branch to exactly where we need it, and that will be only energized when the ignition is turned on. And believe it or not, that's the red wire at this end, so hence why I put a male connector on there, because I can connect that straight up, and we've now got our power feed for the Dana system. So now we can plug in that main power feed for Dana S system. Job done. Perfect. Oh, just by the way, that black wire there is the one that runs down to your brake light switch, and that's the power feed that you could tee into if you go for that particular option to source your 12-volt feed for the ignition system. I'd rather keep it separate and have my whole ignition system run through that one relay. Keeps it all nice and neat and tidy, you know, just in case you've got to do any diagnostics further down the line. So that's the Dana S system fully installed from a mechanical and electrical perspective. What we haven't yet done is done the ignition timing. So Dana goes on to say, under the timing procedure, they say, note, A, the left module fires cylinders 1 and 4, the right module fires cylinders 2 and 3. And each provides a plus or minus 10 degrees of adjustment. That's on those really small little cap heads on each of the pickups. Moving them counterclockwise advances the timing, and clockwise movement retards the timing. Note B, all timing adjustments should be made using the advanced timing marks, that's the advanced timing marks, not the F mark, that's where we put the little dots of paint. And those are approximately ½ an inch to the right of the F marks on the advanced assembly, where I showed you the work. I wanted to clarify that because it's not that clear. To time the engine statically, connect a 12-volt test light from the junction of the blue coil wires to the ground. So from that blue wire that feeds down to these pickups, and then ground it to the engine case. Do not disconnect the wires. Use a wrench on the advanced assembly hex washer to rotate the engine. Step 2. Turn the ignition switch on whilst holding the rotor in the fully advanced position, clockwise. Slowly rotate the engine while still holding it in the fully clockwise position, so you're on full advance. Slowly rotate the engine clockwise until the test light turns on. The right hand advance mark for cylinders 1 and 4 should align with the fixed mark on the engine case. Right, let's go give that a go. So first of all, I need to tap into the blue wire here. Look, this one. That's the one with the blue collar on their wiring. So I'm just going to push back this insulator, back up the wire, and that's going to expose the actual connector. And I can put my little fly lead on there now. Now bear in mind this is going to be 12 volts at some point, so you need to make sure that that doesn't ground out on the chassis, or anything metal to be fair. And now we can connect this to our test light and connect our test light to ground. Okay, let's put our test light on this side out of the way, down to ground on one of the wires, doesn't matter which way around it goes, and onto our other fly lead on the other. Now again, make sure it doesn't ground out on anything, and we've got the bulb just here. So, ignition on. Right, again, like I did with the points, I want to get the bulb in a position where you can see the timing marks and the bulb come on at the same time. So I'm just going to tuck it down there, so it's going to light up behind. You'll be able to see it come on, not a problem. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because we've got to hold the advanced collar fully clockwise as we rotate the engine, and that's just, I don't think that's possible, to be honest. It's going to be quite difficult to do. So I'm just going to move the engine forwards a little bit, rotating it clockwise, and we can see in there, with the aid of the yellow dot, the two advanced timing marks, and we're going to aim for the one furthest to the right. So if I go a little bit further, in fact, let's try it now, see where we are. Nope, the light is not lighting. Let's keep going a bit further around. Nope. Okay, a bit further. Oh, we're on 2, 3. We have to go a bit further around. We're doing 1 and 4 first. Jeez, what a plonker. Right, let's keep going. Okay, there's 1, 4, and those are the two timing marks just there. Look, so let's rotate that collar out and see if we're there. Right, that's fully clockwise and no light. Okay, let's go a little bit further. Right, fully clockwise. Ah, we do. Okay, so we're actually a little bit early on that, so we need to turn the plate clockwise. fraction. Just going to slacken these off a little bit. There we go. And we'll turn that just a little bit, if it will. It's quite tight. There we go. Let's just nip that off. Just on one of the screws. Okay, let's see where we're at now. Okay, so good. The light is not lighting. Let's just go round to the mark that we actually want now. There, perfect. Okay. Oh, look at that. So I'm just turning it very slowly, and I want the light to come on as once I get to the end. And that is absolutely bang on. Okay, so now we can lock off these 3 adjuster screws. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, camera. I don't go all gorilla on these because they're only little M5s. Right, one more check. Just turning it clockwise. Excellent. It really is right on the edge. Perfect. Okay, right. What does the instructions say now? That was really super easy. Got it on the first adjustment. Might take you a couple of goes just to move that plate around, just to, you know, very gingerly, just a fraction at a time to get it spot on, but it's definitely worth getting it perfect. Now remember, the ignition coils are on at the moment, so we don't want them getting too hot, to be fair. Now, where are we? Dum dum dum. Right. Step 3. If the marks do not align, loosen the screws holding the Dynatek plate to the engine and rotate it clockwise and counterclockwise as appropriate, and retighten the screws. Done that. 4. Rotate the engine backwards until the light goes out and repeat steps 2 and 3. Well, I don't like to rotate engines backwards. So basically we should rotate the engine a full 360 degrees on the crank and check it again, shouldn't we? Let's go and do that just to make sure we're absolutely bang on. Right, here goes. I've just backed you off a little bit so you can see a bit more what's going on. So we're going round. That's 2, 3. Going back up to 1 and 4. Okay, we're going to line it up with the line. There we go. Right, full advance on here. Perfect. Good job. Well worth checking. Okay, step 5. We're cooking on gas here. After 1 and 4, cylinders 1 and 4 timing is verified, and it is verified, it's bang on. Connect the test lights to the yellow coil wire and repeat step 2 using the time marks cylinder for 2 and 3. If it's necessary to adjust the cylinders 2, 3 ignition timing, loosen the cap screws holding the right module. So we're not to adjust the backing plate anymore. That's all set. Leave that alone. And using an Allen wrench, in fact they've written alien wrench. So using an alien wrench supplied with the kits, let's have a little look. This is, I've never seen an alien wrench before. There you go, look, it looks just like an Allen key, to be fair to me. Okay, we digress. Dana, you've got a spelling mistake. And move it clockwise or counterclockwise as appropriate, and retighten the screws. It's pretty easy. Right, let's go and do that. Okay, so we need to be on the yellow wire now, don't we? So let's unplug that. So I'm going to put the sheathing back down there. Keep it all nice and neat. There we go. And we're going to pull back the sheathing on the yellow. Now if you can't do that on yours, then just use maybe a split pin or something to get in there so you can back probe. Make sure the connection's good, that's important. Right, that'll do, got a bit on there. Where's my fly lead gone? There he is. Right, we'll stick him on there. Excellent. Right, back to the crankshaft. The more I'm working on this kit, the better I like it, to be honest. Okay, so we're going to rotate the crank now to cylinders 2, 3. 180 degrees. There we go, and we're going to line it up with the furthest most mark, like we did with the cylinders 1 and 4. Perfect. And now I'm going to rotate this collar. Ooh, it's a little bit early. Again. Yeah, it's a little bit early, about 2 millimeters additional turn of the collar brings that on. You can hear the spark in the cylinder. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, so we need to adjust that. So, a little tiny alien wrench supplied with the kit. That's one. Two. Now I think we need to come this way, I think. If it's going to move. That one's loose. That one's definitely loose. It should now move. So I think we're going to... Let's try it this way. Oh, that was quite a lot, wasn't it? So maybe I can do it holding it in position. I don't want my test light to short out. Okay, so we can now move this until it just flickers. Oh, maybe it holds state. That's not going to work. So we'll have to keep testing it. That's about where it was before. I think we need to go the other way. Yes, we do. Too far. Going back. Going back. Going back. Ooh. There we go. I would suggest a bit further this way again. It's just not quite. I want to get it bang on. That really is at the end of the travel. Cool. Okay, let's lock that off. Both the screws. And just double check. Yeah, that is right on the limit. Cool. Right, we'll just nip those off. Don't go gorilla, these are tiny. There we go. One more check. That's good. Okay, let's do a full rotation again like we did with the other one and double check it. That's 1, 4. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Not far off now. Coming round. There we go. Right, another check. Here we go. Ready? Oh, yes. Perfect. I'm very happy with that. It really is just coming on right at the end of that travel. Super job. Don't forget to turn off your ignition. Very important. Oh, I almost forgot. You probably want to see if the bike starts, don't you? Well, I haven't put any extra fuel in the carbs, but it didn't run out yesterday when I did the points, so what the hell. Let's see if we can get that bike fired up. Right, here goes. Oh, bit of choke, that was on left from yesterday. Ignition is on. Maybe. Now you might think we're finished, but there's another option if you want to do it. If you've got a timing light, it says here in step 7, the engine can also, so the ignition timing can also be dynamically timed using a strobe light in the normal manner. Use the advanced marks and an engine speed of about 2,500 RPM. That will trigger full advance on that centrifugal weight system. Once you're all done, replace the timing cover and the fuel tank. Now, it is actually extremely difficult, if not impossible, with the kind of camera gear that I've got, to do the strobe check, because you won't see the flashes and it'll just be me saying, yes, that's great, and walk away. But if you've got a strobe light, with the human eye, you can do that. And it's very simple to wire up. You just wire up as normal. Your strobe light's normally got a positive and a negative. They go onto your battery. And then you've got a pickup that goes onto one of the HT leads. Now, obviously, when you're checking cylinders 1 and 4, that pickup will need to go onto one of the HT leads for either cylinder 1 or cylinder 4. And then you can, with the cover off, you can run the engine, get the RPM about 2,500, and you can strobe in through that little hole we've been looking through, and you'll see the timing mark in relationship to the little marking on the casting, the one just above it. And you can do the same thing for cylinders 2 and 3. Just move your pickup across to either HT lead, cylinder 2 or 3. But I can't really do that on this video because you won't see the strobe flashing. The frame rate on the camera isn't fast enough to pick it up, unfortunately. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of this video. We've installed successfully a Dana electronic ignition kit, and it is, in fact, what's it called? It's the, there you go, look, I'll even show you the price. How's that? I'm just going to shut the box. It's full of bits. It's full of all the old bits. So there you go, look, that's the cost of it. And this one was supplied by Motorcycle Replacements in Dunedin in the South Island. Thanks, Rick. Really appreciate that, mate. Excellent bike shop if you're down there. Really, really helpful staff. I've known Rick for a few years now, and he's a top bloke. And Rachel, of course. Can't miss out Rachel. If you go in, Rachel will sell you a bike. Whether you went in for a pair of gloves or a jacket, you'll still go out with a brand new motorcycle. She's brilliant. So this is, the kit is a Dana S. And it's a Dana S1, I believe. Whichever one it is for the CB750. Works fine. So, hopefully you found this video helpful. If you're running an old Honda 4-cylinder like this, and you're still on points ignition, I can't stress too strongly that you really should go for electronic ignition. Basically no maintenance once it's installed and set up. I've set it up using nothing more than a little tiny test light, a couple of wires. It's taken me, including the filming, it's only taken me about 3 hours to do. Without filming would take you probably about an hour and a half tops to do it. Very, very simple procedure for installation, and you won't need to buy any more points or condensers in the future, and I think you'll probably find that your bike will start a lot better from cold and have a bit more performance. Basically, on points ignition, it's not very accurate, in all honesty. If you watch the ignition timing on an oscilloscope, it really does jump around quite a bit. You'll even see it on a strobe light, to be honest. You know, when you're watching that timing mark, it does tend to jump around a bit with point ignition. When you've got electronic ignition, it's far more stable, and that's what you want. You want accurate ignition timing, and you can't really get that with points, especially at higher RPM. Okay, so if you did enjoy the video, and fingers crossed you did, why not click on the subscribe button? You can also ring the bell, and our friends at YouTube will send you a notification, probably an email, as and when I upload any new videos. If you're really interested in the CB750 videos that I've done, the series, this is video number 12. There's 11 more videos on the channel that you'll be able to watch and you know, follow, basically catch up, because there's still a bit more work to do yet. You'll be able to watch all the work that we've done to date. That includes wiring, front brake. We had loads of problems with the front brake actually. What else did we do? Oh, we did a full bike check. There's heaps of stuff. I forget because it's over quite a long period of time. There's probably another 4 or 5, maybe even 6 videos still to go. One of the videos in the future will include balancing the carburetors as well. Obviously there's 4 carbs on this particular bike, 1 for each cylinder, and I can guarantee they're nowhere near balanced at the moment. We need to sort that out too. Now, you'll also find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Feel free to communicate through any of those portals. You can also flick me an email. My email address is down in the description. You'll also find a Patreon page for Andy Mechanic YouTube channel too. You can read all about the history of the channel, how it came to be, and there are profiles there and lots of photos of all the gorgeous tool girls that have been on the show. It's great to have them around. Tool girl Holly was down only a few weeks ago, and I think she's due back sometime in February if all goes to plan. All depends when the parts turn up for her DR200. We've got a few more parts still waiting to turn up, and you know, freight at this time of year, it's not great. Oh, if you want to become a patron, you can do that through Patreon, and you can do it, set up a regular donation each month if you like. And a huge thank you, in fact, to all the patrons, all the supporters of the channel, anyone really that sent something through to help us do what we do. Because without your help, we could not do this. It's not actually cheap making videos. It really isn't. It's definitely I won't say a lost leader, but I do this for the love of it, not for the money. Okay, crew, what else? You can also use PayPal as well. If you want to not go through the Patreon channel, you can use PayPal, and the email address again is down in the description, andymechanic@live.co.uk. Alright crew, well, until next time, see you around. Cheers, over and out. And we get the pick up again.
Oh.
Really.